Despite portraying an image of a perfect technological country with highly educated people and an incredible culture, Japan has a very serious problem with work. There are people literally working themselves to death, often for a pittance. This is no exaggeration. It's something so real that it's already worrying the Japanese government itself. We're talking about thousands of cases recorded every year, thousands. How did such a developed, technological, and organized country reach this point? What's happening behind the scenes in the land of the rising sun? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore in today's video. I'm going to show you the dark side that no one tells you about working in Japan. Imagine working 80, 90, sometimes even 100 extra hours a month, sleeping 3-4 hours a night, without weekends to rest, without time for your family, without time for practically anything. And your body starts showing signs. You get headaches, high blood pressure. Yet you still ignore it because everyone goes through it. Until one day, the worst happens. There are many cases of people who have gone through this in Japan. And these are very young people, 30, 35 years old, people who should be at the peak of their health and are experiencing such problems. The most shocking thing is that the family can sue the company for this kind of thing because it is so common that there is a law for it. There are lawyers specialized in this. The Japanese government records more than 2,000 cases of work-related deaths per year. But experts say the real number is much, much higher. Because many families do not report to the authorities, many companies hide cases, and many of these cases are classified as natural causes. And you might wonder, okay, but why does someone work so much to the point of passing away? And there are many reasons. And in Japan's case, people don't work a lot just because they want to. There's a whole system pushing you to do so. And that's what we're going to talk about from now on. First, I need to show you what the day-to-day life of a Japanese salaryman is like. At 6 in the morning, he wakes up, takes a quick shower, puts on his suit. They're always in a suit, by the way. Grabs his backpack and rushes to the station. At 6:45, he gets on the train. And when I say gets on the train here, sometimes it means being pushed inside. So you're there, squeezed, breathing air that has already been breathed by 100 other people. At 8:30, he arrives at the office, greets everyone with bows, sits at his desk. And this is where the show starts. You work, and you work hard. Emails turn into meetings, presentations that no one really cares about or reads thoroughly, documents that need 15 stamps of approval to move forward, decisions that take weeks because no one wants to take responsibility. Japan and Japanese corporatism are still very well known for being quite bureaucratic. They still use very old systems. They like bureaucracy, that's the truth. At 5:30 in the afternoon, theoretically, it's time to leave. But you don't, because your boss is still there working. In Japan, you cannot leave before your boss does. It doesn't matter if you have nothing left to do, you need to stay. At 7:30 p.m., your boss finally gets up, but he doesn't go home. He invites you out for a drink. And this is considered one of the most diabolical parts of Japanese corporate culture. Basically, these are mandatory gatherings where everyone goes out to drink after work. And it's usually not optional. If you refuse, you're seen as very rude and someone who doesn't want to be part of the team, who doesn't care about colleagues, who lacks team spirit. So you end up going. You drink with your boss, listen to the same boring stories, laugh at the same bad jokes, and pretend you're having fun. At 10:30 p.m., you finally get home. You eat something very simple, take a shower, and collapse into bed. And the next day, it all starts again. On the weekend, you have the company soccer game, the company barbecue, the neighborhood cleanup organized by the company. There's no time left for personal life, no time for hobbies, nothing like that. You start losing touch with friends who work at other companies. You only see your family when they're asleep, basically. It's an invisible prison. You're not literally trapped, but you also can't leave. Because if you leave, you're considered weak, uncommitted, and someone who can't handle pressure. And this is a fundamental concept of Japanese culture, gamam. It means to endure, persevere, or even bear in silence. In Japan, complaining is weakness. Showing you're tired is also weakness. Asking for help is weakness, so you always have to endure silently and keep enduring. And amidst all this, there's one thing that makes everything worse: the hierarchy. In Japan, there's a system called Shinpai Kohai. It basically means that whoever joined the company earlier is superior to those who joined later. And it's not just a trivial detail, okay? This defines almost everything in your professional life. Your senpai can ask you for anything, and often you have to do it without questioning. Getting him a coffee, doing that report he should be doing, staying late because he's staying late too. And there's not much you can do in these cases. Saying no here would be disrespecting the hierarchy. And disrespecting the hierarchy is one of the worst things you can do in Japanese culture. And as I said before, you can't leave the office before your superior. This creates an absurd culture of pretending to be busy. Some people stay in the office until 10 p.m. just fiddling with random spreadsheets because the boss is still there. And it's curious because there's a very similar term for this, which is Madugi Wazoku, meaning something like the window people. These are people who basically do nothing all day, just sit near the window pretending to work. And they often get paid well for it, because they've been with the company for many years. Meanwhile, the younger employees work like crazy, often earn little, and are still treated as lesser because of the hierarchy. It's a completely inverted system. It doesn't matter if you're good at what you do. It doesn't matter if you're efficient and help the company make money. What matters most is how long you've been with the company and how much time you spend in the office. Now, talking about money here, because this is one of the parts that many people don't understand. A newly graduated person in Japan earns on average about 200,000 yen per month. It might seem like a lot until you do the math properly. Rent for a tiny apartment in Tokyo costs about 80,000 yen. Transportation costs 15,000 yen. Food costs about 40,000 if you eat cheaply. And if you start adding electricity, water, internet, health insurance that some places require you to have, in the end, you'll be left with about 20,000 to 30,000 yen. That's like $200 a month. And then you ask me, okay, but what about the overtime they do? They work a lot, right? Well, the overtime. This is another trick of the Japanese system. There's a concept called services and go, which are service overtime hours. Basically, it's overtime that you do voluntarily for the company, without earning an extra cent for it. You work 50, 60 extra hours a month, and don't earn a cent more in your salary. Often, this is caused by the pressure the company puts on you, and they see it as a favor you're doing for the company. It's your way of showing loyalty. And yes, obviously this is illegal, but it's very common and happens in virtually all companies. And no one complains, because complaining is weakness, remember? It's a perfect trap. You're stuck because you need the money, but the money you earn is barely enough to survive. So you work more, but working more doesn't always give you more money, because half of the overtime isn't paid. And still, you have to do it because it's expected. It's like being a hamster running on a wheel. This whole insane work system doesn't just affect the individual, the person going through it. It affects the whole society, actually. First, you have the birth rate plummeting. Japan already has one of the lowest birth rates in the world, and it's not very hard to understand why. If you're working 14 hours a day, when are you going to date? When are you going to start a family? Many Japanese people have effectively decided to give up on the idea of having children because they don't know when they will be able to give attention to a child. And in Japanese culture, if you can't do something right, it's better not to do it at all. There are also some movements among men who have taken advantage of these issues in Japan, such as the herbivore men and the hikikomori. More and more young people are choosing this path because they look at their parents, uncles, bosses, and everyone is worn out by work, and they think, well, I don't want that for myself. And lastly, marriages and relationships are increasingly strained. Besides the lack of time, there is another problem. People are too exhausted to engage in relationships. You come home at night, worn out, with no energy even to talk. How can you build a deep relationship like that? So there are more and more Japanese who live alone their entire lives. Not by choice, but because they simply didn't have the time or energy to build something else. But if it's so bad, why don't they change? Good question. Let's explore that a little. First, there's a problem between tradition and necessity. Many things in Japan are still done because they've always been done that way. The hierarchy has always been this way, the long hours have always been this way, Loyalty to the company has always been this way. To change this would be like challenging centuries of culture. In a society where respecting tradition is very important, this is practically impossible. In recent years, the government has tried to implement changes, like limiting the amount of overtime you can do in a month to 45 hours. And it's still a lot. But anyway, and the problem is that companies always find a way. Oh, you can't do overtime at the office anymore? Then take work home? Can't work on Saturday anymore? You can work on Sunday. The law changes, but the culture remains the same. And the third, and perhaps the biggest reason for this, is collective fear. People don't rebel because they are afraid of losing their job, afraid of not finding another one, afraid of disappointing their family and being seen as a failure. In Japan, if you leave a company, especially if you leave too quickly, you carry that mark forever. Other companies will look at you with a certain suspicion, so people prefer to stay. They prefer to endure. They prefer to slowly destroy themselves rather than risk leaving. It's a system that self-perpetuates through this fear. What we can learn from this are a few lessons. First, Japan is not the perfect country we see in anime and travel blogs. Behind all this efficiency, technology, and organization, there's a much darker side. Second, this insanely demanding work system comes at a very high cost. It's literally taking people away, destroying families, and preventing an entire generation from living the right way. And third, and perhaps most importantly, this is not just a Japanese problem. In many places around the world, we're seeing the same thing. The glorification of working hard, the famous work while they sleep. South Korea has similar problems, China too. Even in Western countries, we see this culture of always being available, always producing something. Is it really worth it? I know that sometimes it's worth sacrificing your health for productivity, especially when you're doing something for yourself, but how far is it worth it? Anyway, if you want to help me keep bringing videos like this, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, share it with someone who needs to see this. Thank you very much for watching so far, and I'll see you in the next video.